Part 48. Fantasy. After thousands of years of seclusion, I became a saint. Author, love to eat chicken legs. Chapter 478. Damn thing. As strong as Qin Hao's will, he couldn't help but feel a little angry when faced with the repeated blows from the possessed Xiao Shifang. Originally, Xiao Shifang used the heaven-killing mad demon art, and Qin Hao guessed that it was related to the Xiao long section relationship. Therefore, Qin Hao had already thought about Xiao Shifang, not to kill him, but at least to get some secrets out of his mouth. However, it is difficult to recover after being possessed by Xiao Shifang, at least with Xiao Shifang's will. He will definitely die. So Qin Hao, while angry in his heart, made up his mind to kill him. Musculoskeletal surgery. In fact, among the techniques of columning demons, the muscle and bone technique, although it is above the heaven-slaying mad demon technique, is not considered top-notch. At least in the hands of the immortal Lord, many of them must still be above the muscle and bone technique. But Qin Hao also has an arrogant side. At least he has the training and fighting experience of the immortal Lord in his hands, which has allowed him to defeat the strong with the weak. After all, Qin Hao underestimates the self-mutilation technique. Click. The strength of Qin Hao's whole body has surpassed the day after tomorrow. The physical body with many spiritual treasures swelled up in an instant, and the momentum of the whole body also surged twice in an instant. The improvement of the muscles and bones technique means that the physical body's mana speed and even the mental will can also be improved, unlike the sky-killing mad devil technique. The mind will be lost, and it will only increase the mana. This can be regarded as one aspect that the muscle and bone technique is more powerful than the sky-slaying mad demon technique. When the muscular and bone technique unfolded, Qin Hao felt that he had inexhaustible strength in his body, and his confidence increased greatly. He also knew that the limit of this muscle and bone technique was 1 hour, so he was not polite at that moment. Taking advantage of this moment of surging mana, he used the sword technique continuously and tried his best to kill Xiao Shifang. Sword breaks the sky. Sword rain. Overturning the sea. Qin Hao's own sword-wielding ability has already reached the level of sword-wielding. Compared with this ancestor Shifang, who is just an ordinary Deluo, at least in terms of sword-wielding, he may not have made any big progress. Shifang is really a world of difference. In addition, what Xiao Shifang is displaying at this moment is the divine hammer. His sword art cannot match this divine hammer at all, but it limits the powerful sword art. Therefore, the mana cultivation level is equivalent. Under such circumstances, even when Xiao Shifang only had a 20% advantage, Qin Hao used powerful sword techniques to force Xiao Shifang into misery. Fortunately, Xiao Shifang was in a mad demon state at the moment. Normally, I have more madness. Yes, I am mad. Therefore, when facing adversity, I have less worry in my heart, so that my moves will not be confused. Even so, from the initial active attack to the current Xiao Shifang instinctively felt a kind of disgust, deep disgust at Zhao Zhao being led by the nose. Roar. Like the roar of a wild beast, the demonic aura emanating from Xiao Shifang's whole body may have made the monks around him frown and feel very uncomfortable. However, in front of Qin Hao, the master of the demonic way, it is really not worth mentioning. At least the nascent soul condensed by the demonic evil energy in Qin Hao's body is many times more powerful than the evil energy from the ancestors of Shifang. This boy is truly the #1 person in our immortal clan's history. Looking at Qin Hao's great power, I don't know how his strength suddenly increased. But in the end, the weak defeated the strong, and at such an age, he is not inferior to the Hunyuan saint in the Hunyuan ancient world. Withered Bone Daezu is absolutely sure. The mere Hunyuan ancient world is really nothing in Qin Hao's eyes. Even the top master in the Hunyuan ancient world can be picked off by his hand. While the Withered Bone Daezu was shocked, he was convinced and even more determined to stand to the death. Qin Hao's position. He is also an old man. At least with his status, Qin Hao respects his elders. I am afraid that if Qin Hao takes over the power of the immortal clan in the future, his benefits will be indispensable. And the people of the Taishu immortal sect are even more crazy with surprise. Originally they were looking at Qin Hao's identity as an immortal clan. As for whether it would be successful or not, they were not completely sure, at least they were only 60% sure. But the ultimate strength that Qin Hao showed this time was not only the peak of De Luo, but also the withered bone Taoist ancestor in the realm of Hunyuan sage was also dumbfounded. The saint who is known as the top master in the Hunyuan ancient realm, and even the top master in the entire Hunyuan ancient realm is just that. Even if there is no passage in Luofu Mountain, Qin Hao can easily go out. Incomparable. As for the immortal clan, Qin Yu is just a small role, not worth mentioning. When the immortal clan takes power, the Taishu immortal sect's position in the ancient world of Hunyuan. Thinking of this, Patriarch Maluo sighed more and more. Your decisiveness back then was really wise. Flying Thunder God Shadow. Qin Hao wanted to kill Xiao Shifang wholeheartedly, so naturally he didn't know what others were thinking. The more he fought with Xiao Shifang, he became stronger and stronger, but in just a moment, Xiao Shifang was completely led by him to fight. Suddenly, the movement method of summoning the Thunder God's shadow, and the phantoms condensed, although it was not very effective on the possessed Xiao Shifang. However, Qin Hao still relied on this strange movement method, and hit Xiao Shifang's ribs with a sword. Sword Rain covers the sea. Although Sword Rain is a group attack move, under the thousands of Sword Rains, who can escape? What's more, what Qin Hao has practiced hard in the immortal realm is to kill with one strike. This Sword Rain and 10,000 sword chi, it came out in a mighty way. But in an instant, it condensed into one. Boom. The gap is just a gap after all. At least with Qin Hao's strength, fighting against Xiao Shifang, who was in a mad state and was like a puppet, Qin Hao would be able to take advantage of it. All the way up. There was no difference or suspense at all. One blow hit Xiao Shifang's nascent soul. Only a roar and explosion was heard. Xiao Shifang didn't even have a chance. Qin Hao's sword energy directly destroyed the nascent soul, and both body and soul were destroyed. Whoosh! Xiao Shifang has fallen. After all, he was the former top master in Luofu Mountain. Everyone was stunned when he fell. At this time, Xiao Bai in the space suddenly ignored the situation and just screamed. He rushed out of the space. He didn't even discuss it with Qin Hao. Noob. After working hard to destroy Xiao Shifang, Xiao Bai suddenly took action. Even Qin Hao thought that something big happened. Unexpectedly, Xiao Bai pounced on Xiao Shifang, as if he had encountered something quite unpleasant. In an instant he stopped again, communicated with Qin Hao and complained. This guy has become a demon, and his nascent soul demonization is the best supplement for your demon infant. I don't know how many times stronger than the ordinary nascent soul, but you are so reckless, destroying him, what a waste. Qin Hao was stunned. This guy is addicted to the cannibalistic nascent soul. However, as Xiao Bai said, this ancestor Shifang is possessed by demons, and his nascent soul is really a great supplement to Qin Hao. Note, ordinary nascent souls are the condensation of true Yuan power. Even after Qin Hao refined them, very few became demonic powers. And these nascent souls that were possessed by ancestors from all directions contained countless demonic powers. If Qin Hao absorbs it directly, at least for the demon infant, the gain will be considerable. Fantasy, after thousands of years of seclusion, I became a saint. Author, love to eat chicken legs. Chapter 479. Xiao Bai, search him to see if there is anything we are looking for. Thinking of the heaven-slaying mad demon art, if we talk about the ancestral Shifang, it has the greatest relationship with the secrets of the ancestral dragon sect. Now that he is dead, Qin Hao can only place his hope on him. Elder Qin Hao, next we. Xiao Shifang was resolved, and Zilong sect also surrendered. Everyone in the Taishu immortal sect regarded the most powerful Qin Hao as their backbone, and they all looked at him and listened to his instructions. Letting Xiao Bai search Xiao Shifang's body, Qin Hao was startled. He was really not that enthusiastic about power. Speaking of which, this life and death struggle in the world of cultivation actually made his blood boil. He seems to have no political ideas. Now that everyone is looking to him, it really makes Qin Hao very distressed. Ancestors and senior fire puppets, what do you think? Qin Hao had no choice but to throw this problem to these elders. Well, the two old monsters pondered for a while and then said, the most important thing now is to merge the Zilong sect and Taishu Xianmen into one family, and then take advantage of the prosperity of our forces to prevent the major forces from uniting, take the initiative to attack, defeat them one by one, and unify Luofu Mountain. By then, the Hunyuan ancient world will be under our control. This is where the 3,000 days Hu elites gather. By then, Qin Hao, you will also have a team. It is really not worth mentioning to fight against a mere Qin Yu. As expected, he is an old monster. He has great foresight and plans for Qin Hao's future. After the withered bone Taoist said this, the fire puppet Taoist also nodded in praise and agreed with his point of view. Good. According to what the seniors said, Senior Huo puppet, Elder Milo, everyone, I leave it to you to integrate the two major forces and recover Luofu Mountain. Qin Hao had more important things to do at the moment, and with the strength of fire puppet Dao ancestor Milo Elder and others, it was more than enough to recapture Luofu Mountain. Therefore, he was not polite and immediately threw this hot potato to them. Ancestor, there are still some things about the ancestral dragon sect, but I want to trouble you. Xiao Bai's search for the ancestral Shifang was fruitless, and Qin Hao had to place his hopes on the ancestral dragon sect. According to his character, even if he turned the entire ancestral dragon sect over, he would have to give it a try. As for that, he had not thought about breaking through. It should be noted that Qin Hao was not very sure after passing Luofu Mountain. And when he reached the 7th level, he had to face the challenge of the last level. The higher the cultivation level, the harder it is to improve. That is, Qin Hao's rapid cultivation was not something he could get back in exchange for a narrow escape. Although his cultivation level is already very high, at least he will have no worries for a period of time. The accumulation of mana, especially his two nascent souls, is also very expensive. A long time. Relatively speaking, this time would be enough to go through the Luofu Mountain passage 3 or 4 times. So, he made up his mind at this time to first ask the withered ancestor about the Zilong section secret, and if he really can't do anything, then decide to move the mountain. In the ancestral dragon sect, 2 monks, one old and one young, are waiting anxiously in the ancestral dragon sect's Shenxiao pavilion. These 2 people are Qin Hao and the withered bone Taoist. Before Qin Hao went to the withered bone Taoist to ask about the ancestral dragon sect, and he got a lot of useful information. It was this ancestral dragon sect, and the withered bone Taoist was one of the founders of the sect. When the illusion of death appeared in Luofu Mountain, all forces in the ancient world of Hunyuan dynasty wanted to have a foot in this death illusion, so they sent their own tribesmen to form batches of death squads to explore this death environment. And withered bones Taoist ancestors and others, as immortals therefore, he was sent to this fantasy realm of death. After witnessing the death of countless companions, the withered bone Taoist finally gained a foothold in Luofu Mountain and founded the ancestral dragon sect. When he first discovered the ancestral dragon sect, the Tianzu Peak, it was a forbidden area. Many of the monks who tried to set foot in the ancestral dragon sect died. Withered bone Taoist ancestor was one of them, but he was lucky. He accidentally bumped into the ancestral dragon sect and actually stepped on it. Entered inside and found a jade tablet. With the jade tablet, the withered bone Taoist relied on his strong cultivation to reveal the secrets of the ancestral dragon sect bit by bit. The ancestral dragon sect had killed countless monks. Yes, it was forbidden by the terrifying formations of the Zilong sect. And the withered bone Dao ancestor got the jade tablet that can control the restrictions, so he naturally controlled these restrictions easily. So he also relied on these prohibition formations to create the entire Zilong zone. However, the withered bone's Taoist ancestor also knew the terror of the formation prohibition, but did not know why. However, according to the withered bone's Taoist ancestor, this Shenxiao Pavilion was the place where the jade tablet was found. Later, because of this, Shenxiao Pavilion was regarded as therefore, Qin Hao immediately targeted the Shenxiao Pavilion and asked Xiaobai to search. Bang! Xiaobai is a divine beast, and his perverted mind is more ferocious than ordinary monks. How many times more sensitive? Even if he is as strong as Qin Hao, he is ashamed of himself. However, this guy has been worried about gains and losses since he stepped into Shenxiao Pavilion, but he is so sensitive that he has instantly captured a breath that is different from Shenxiao Pavilion. Very familiar, this Shenxiao Pavilion seems to have another kind of atmosphere, mysterious and unpredictable. Xiao Qinzi, something doesn't seem right. Xiao Bai seemed to have discovered something. While communicating with Qin Hao, he suddenly rolled towards the huge elder's table. However, he seemed to have encountered some powerful counter-shock force and was thrown back by the rebound force. Xiao Bai seemed to have discovered something. Bai's body is only about the size of a palm. If he hits it, it will definitely be very funny to outsiders. Just like the stones thrown into the lake, it is lucky not to be hit on the stone table. As for being ejected back, it is natural. But Qin Hao was suddenly startled, and he focused his mind on the stone table in astonishment. Qin Hao knew how powerful Xiao Bai was. At least Xiao Bai's physical strength was superior to his. It is not inferior to the ordinary masters of the Space and Pluto period. Despite its small size, you have never seen an ant move an elephant. But Xiao Bai can do it without any tricks. It is a head-to-head confrontation with strength. However, now with Xiao Bai's the strength was actually bounced back by the stone table, which shows that this stone table is indeed extraordinary. Well, strange. After mentally exploring the stone table for a long time, Qin Hao was surprised to find that the stone table did not have any fluctuations in mana and was still so simple and normal. Could it be that the stone table itself is hard? Qin Hao frowned. The withered bone Taoist on the side also noticed Qin Hao's doubts and said, "This stone table is weird to say the least. It's obviously very ordinary, but it's extremely hard. I once tried it with my innate spiritual treasure, but it didn't work. It's a pity that there are many masters in Luofu Mountain, but no one can create an innate spiritual treasure, let alone a stone table made of Nehi, which is harder than the innate spiritual treasure." After hearing what the withered bone Taoist said, Qin Hao became completely interested. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, after thousands of years of seclusion, I became a saint. Author, love to eat chicken legs. Chapter 480. When something goes wrong, there must be a reason. This stone table is weird. Thinking of this, Qin Hao's mind moved. He took out the sword of Abi, a treasure of merit and virtue, and struck the stone table with the sword in his right hand. Clang! The flying sword vibrated, but the stone table that the flying sword passed by was safe and sound, everything was as before. Kindness. Slightly startled, Qin Hao unleashed his magic power, and a sharp sword energy landed on the stone table. Boom! The sword energy fell, and after the roar and explosion, it just flickered in the void, and the stone table was still safe and sound. What a weird stone table. Qin Hao has seen with his own eyes the power of this stone table. Even the flying sword and sword energy can't do anything to it. Even Qin Hao himself is a little helpless. At this moment, he seems to have found the secret, but the secret has been revealed. It's locked, but there's no key. You can imagine the frustration in this. Not willing to give in. Qin Hao's expectation for that passage can be imagined. Now that it is so close, how can he not be anxious? 5 elements increase, 4th level. Qin Hao's whole body is full of magic power. At this moment, the effect of his muscle and bone technique is still there. Coupled with the 4 consecutive microwave shocks and the sword of Abi in his hand, even the ancestors of Shi Fang will have to drink hatred on the spot. The flying sword is dead. It crossed the stone table, and it was tit for tat with the stone table itself. The material of this stone table was really powerful. Even if Qin Hao used all his strength, the flying sword was condensed into golden yellow by the powerful magic power. The flying sword passed by, and the stone table there is a faint tendency to sink. There's drama. Qin Hao captured the situation keenly, knowing that this stone table also had its limits, so he persisted more and more. Click. There was a crisp sound, and Qin Hao felt a pain in the yuanying, but the majestic Abi sword was broken. And the imprint of Qin Hao's mind was naturally wiped out in an instant. Hiss. The withered bone Taoist on the side took a breath, his face was moved, but his eyes were a little distressed. The flying sword of merit and virtue couldn't compete, which shows how powerful this stone table is. On the other hand, he felt sorry for the dignified Abi sword. There were only 3 innate spiritual treasures in Luofu Mountain, and they were destroyed. Qin Hao naturally did not have such awareness, at least he was used to seeing all kinds of powerful magic weapons. Even his master, if he didn't have the intention to train him and throw him a magic weapon casually, it must be an innate spiritual treasure, which is much more powerful than these treasures of merit. Even his own current weapon refining methods, you can make a spiritual treasure with some snacks. If you are lucky, it is not impossible to get a top-level spiritual treasure. Hey, Xiao Qinzi, why are you so stupid? The treasure of merit and virtue cannot be achieved. Your Tianquo, which surpasses the innate spiritual treasure, may be sealed and its power cannot be achieved. But in terms of material, I'm afraid there is nothing harder than it in the entire Hunyuan ancient world. Seeing that Qin Hao's flying sword was burned and people were injured, Xiaobai looked like a child who couldn't be taught, and put his head in a cage, but he still had concern in his heart, and reminded him hurriedly. As expected, Qin Hao suddenly realized that he didn't even care about the injuries on his body. With the thought, the Tianzhenquo appeared. With previous experience, Qin Hao also knew that the sword energy would not damage the stone table too much. Therefore, he directly transformed the Tianzhenquo into a dagger-sized one and held it in his right hand. The Zhentian shuttle slashed hard on the stone table. Kang. The Zhentian shuttle was indeed a heavenly weapon, and its material was naturally impeccable. The shuttle blade passed across the stone table, and the originally indestructible stone table was deeply damaged. A dent. Finally, as if a barrier had been broken through, the Tianzhenquo withstood all Qin Hao's mana, leaving a mark on the stone table. At this moment, the entire stone table suddenly bloomed with green light, and it disappeared in a flash. Immediately, Qin Hao felt that the stone table that had been opened with so much hard work suddenly became like tofu, and it was opened instantly under the Tianzhen shuttle. This stone table turned out to contain a layer of prohibition. Until this moment, Qin Hao it suddenly dawned on Ho Fang that this seemingly ordinary stone table turned out to be not a hard material, but a layer of restrictions on the surface. Now that the restrictions were broken, it was like the water that burst the embankment, breaking the army. However, such restrictions, Lian Qin, the 2 perverted masters Hao and Xiaobai, were able to hide it, and I have to say that this restriction is really powerful. However, Qin Hao was not surprised yet. As the stone table collapsed, the entire ancestral dragon sect suddenly began to shake. Boom! 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 Qin Hao and others can clearly feel that the mountains under their feet are shaking, as if they are about to collapse. No, this ancestral dragon sect is going to collapse. The expression of the withered bone Taoist ancestor changed, and he and Qin Hao and others instantly used their magic power to stand up out of thin air. Sure enough, just as the two of them and the beast stood up, the entire ancestral dragon sect's stronghold, which was originally woven by countless forbidden formations, was like that gathered the entire Tianzi Peak, which was 10,000 meters high, turned into a vast expanse of dust. This time, whether it was the powerful formation restriction or the scenic view of Zilong sect, everything was burned to the ground. The ancestral dragon sect was destroyed. Looking at the ancestral dragon sect below, which was on the verge of destruction, the withered bone Dao ancestor and others were stunned. Needless to say, the ancestral dragon sect was extremely mysterious, and the destruction of the stone table could actually cause this. The ancestral dragon sect collapsed. Obviously the stone table was probably the core of the ancestral dragon sect. Qin Hao aimed to uncover the secrets of the ancestral dragon sect and find the passage. When the ancestral dragon sect collapsed, he had nothing but expectations. There is no emotion at all. But the dry bones Dao ancestor is different. For 100 years, he has devoted almost his whole life to this ancestral dragon sect. At this moment, the ancestral dragon sect collapses, which is like the foundation he founded is collapsing in front of his eyes. It is heartbreaking to say the least. But it was impossible. Suddenly, a faint sadness lingered in my heart. Haha, this ancestral dragon sect is really weird. Xiao Qinzi, do you feel it? Seeing the collapse of the ancestral dragon sect, Xiao Bai suddenly popped his head up, as if he had discovered something, and suddenly said to Qin Hao. Well? Qin Hao frowned, and carefully probed for a while, and he really felt it. With the collapse of the ancestral dragon sect, a familiar aura became clearer and more obvious. This is the aura of the teleportation array. Yes, there must be nothing wrong with it. So, the passage is indeed in the ancestral dragon sect. Qin Hao instantly realized that the aura was not the aura he felt from the teleportation array. He was filled with surprise and looked straight at the ancestral dragon sect which was being destroyed, his face full of expectation. Sure enough, along with the entire Zilong sect, under the collapsed Zilong sect, the towering Tianzi Peak was no longer there, but a simple stone altar with a radius of more than 10 feet was revealed. Sure enough, it was him. Qin Hao was ecstatic when he saw that the ancient stone altar appeared, which was exactly the same as the teleportation array he saw in the Sea of Death. As long as he stepped onto this teleportation array, the next moment he would be able to see his dreamed of family members and several brothers. Them. Qin Hao, what is this? Only the withered bone Dao ancestor has not heard about this passage. Seeing Qin Hao's obsession with this teleportation array, he said with confusion. Fantasy, after thousands of years of seclusion, I became a saint. Author, love to eat chicken legs. Chapter 481. Since the teleportation array is here, Qin Hao is not polite and tells the withered bones Dao ancestor about this passage. You mean, through this teleportation formation, we can get out? The dry bones Dao ancestor has been trapped in this illusion of death for 100 years. After 100 years of life and death struggle, he has a high reputation, but he is not alone for 100 years. Moreover, he will face the challenge of this illusion of death the day after tomorrow, and his life and death are uncertain. The emergence of this teleportation array, it's simply a life-saving medicine. How could he not be excited? Ancestor, please don't get excited. Let's gather everyone from the Teishu Immortal sect and the Ancestral Dragon sect first. When everyone arrives, we can all go out together. Qin Hao also knew how excited the withered bone Dao ancestor was, but he himself was not the same. Forced to suppress his inner excitement, Qin Hao thought that this teleportation formation was established by the demon Tribulation Dao. Without the demonic evil energy, it would never be able to operate. In the entire Luofu mountain, the only one who can find the evil spirit is himself. Therefore, when he leaves, unless someone follows him to teleport out, the teleportation array will be useless and will be useless in the future. Moreover, Qin Hao knows that if I am alone in the ancient world, I still need a group of helpers to help me fight against the entire immortal clan and even the dynasty. And among the people in this death illusion, who can reach this point in the death illusion, which one is the elites among the elites, even in the ancient world of Hunyuan dynasty, are all masters who are 1 to 10. And these masters are also exhausted by this illusion of death. Letting them out is a kind of relief. There are also some who are like this withered bones. Like Taoist ancestors, when it comes to life and death, they will survive when they go out. Therefore, Qin Hao had already planned in his mind to let them go out with him. This move can be said to be a matter of killing two birds with one stone. Thinking of this, Qin Hao directly crushed the jade slip. Notified the integrated forces of the Taishu Immortal Sect and the Ancestral Dragon Sect gathered under the original Tianzi Peak. The original majestic Tianzi Peak has completely collapsed due to the destruction of the Ancestral Dragon Sect, and the original mountain has become low hills. Thousands of Tai and Deluo realm monks stand on the towering Tianzi hills. These powerful monks who used to be arrogant and domineering are now respectful and do not dare to be presumptuous. Ahead, Qin Hao, the withered bone Taoist ancestor, fire puppet Taoist ancestor Milo, Elder Qin Yi, and others were discussing among themselves, but they decided who would leave and who would stay. In the past 2 days, Qin Hao and the withered bone Taoist ancestor were searching in the Ancestral Dragon Sect, and the Taishu the Immortal Sect and the recovered Ancestral Dragon Sect swept across the entire Luofu Mountain. Luofu Mountain was originally one of the 6 major forces, among which the Ancestral Dragon Sect and the Taishu Immortal Sect were the giants, with 2 super masters, the Bone Dao Ancestor and the Fire Puppet Dao Ancestor. It can be considered that it has been accumulating power for a long time. Now that the Ancestral Dragon Sect has been destroyed, Taishu Xianmen has taken action without hesitation. Among the 4 major forces, except Tiantai Mountain, which has resisted. The other 3 major forces have long been defeated by the Fire Puppet Dazu and the Demon Qin. Hao was so frightened by his reputation that he surrendered in a hurry. Luofu Mountain is known as 5,000 Tai and Deluo monks, excluding Tai and Deluo monks who have fallen and do not belong to the 8 major forces. There are more than 3,000 Tai and Deluo monks left. They all became the single-handed control of the Taishu Immortal Sect. As for the other small characters, such as True Immortals, Golden Immortals, etc., there were even more. After all, the Taishu Immortal Sect had just been unified and was not yet completely stable. Moreover, no one wanted to give up here. This is the foundation that this death illusion has worked hard to build. Therefore, when Qin Hao proposed that he had found the teleportation array, everyone was happy at first, and then many people hesitated. Or some local monks, like Elder Sun Hao, wanted to go out and see it. Let's take a look at the situation in the Hunyuan ancient realm. After all, these so-called natives are actually people from the Hunyuan ancient realm. Most of them are seniors who have entered the illusion of death and cannot get out, so they settled in Luofu Mountain, the illusion of death. After getting married and having children, what is left behind becomes the native land. However, there are many who only know the existence of the Hunyuan ancient world, as if they are trapped in a cage and cannot get out. The desire in this can be imagined. However, the teleportation array naturally refused to send everyone away, not to mention the foundation of Taishu Immortal Sect in Luofu Mountain, but it could not be abandoned in vain. In the end, several people discussed it and decided that Dry Bones Daozu must go out. Then Zhao Wuxian, Patriarch Milo and 20 Deluo realm monks followed Qin Hao out, while the rest stayed in the illusion of death. As long as Qin Hao is here, he can easily take them out if he comes to the death illusion in the future. Qianlong Mountain in Kanglong Kingdom. Qianlong Mountain is famous at home and abroad in the entire Hunyuan ancient world, not just because of the sect of Qianlong Mountain. It is also because Qianlong Mountain has the most mysterious illusion of death in the Hunyuan ancient world, which attracts monks from the entire Hunyuan ancient world. On the peaceful mountainside of Qianlong Mountain, a cave entrance where a person was hiding was suddenly opened. Immediately, a powerful black shadow swept out of it, and then dozens of figures followed the black shadow and swept out of it. In a main hall on the top of Qianlong Mountain, an old man was sitting cross-legged, meditating with his eyes closed. Dozens of powerful auras suddenly emerged from Qianlong Mountain, each of which was at least the Tai realm. The old man suddenly woke up and was horrified. Who dares to break into my Qianlong Mountain? Could it be that these people are taking advantage of my empty Qianlong Mountain to have some conspiracy? The old man was shocked, remembering what happened not long ago. The masters of Qianlong Mountain had already been dispatched, but he stayed here to take charge of the overall situation. However, the old man boasted that Qianlong Mountain's formation skills were unparalleled, and his own cultivation was not bad either. We absolutely cannot allow others to run wild in Qianlong Mountain. Immediately, there was a sharp shout, who dares to break into my Qianlong Mountain? The old man's whole body flashed and disappeared into the hall. Someone dares to break into Qianlong Mountain. The old man shouted loudly, but it shook the entire Qianlong Mountain. Immediately, countless Qianlong Mountain disciples, ranging from Jingxian to Tai Deluo, moved out one after another. Well. Hearing that loud shout, Qin Hao frowned, but he suddenly realized that he had made a mistake and had not thought carefully. This Qianlong Mountain is also a famous sect in the entire Hunyuan ancient realm. It was a bit reckless for him to lead everyone out like this. However, he was conceited in his cultivation. Because, even if he meets the Hunyuan saint, he can handle it. Therefore, with a wry smile in his heart, he doesn't take it seriously. Yes, these people are the ancestors of Qin Hao's withered bones, Zhao Wuxian, Maluo, and a dozen Deluo from the Taishu Immortal Section realm experts. After passing the teleportation array, they arrived at the former Qin Hao Tribulation Demon Inheritance Place. Then they went directly from the Tribulation Demon Inheritance Place to the cave where Xiaobai used to be, which is Qianlong Mountain. Phew. Phew. Accompanied by 4 people, 5 figures fell down, but it was an old man, followed by 4 Deluo realm masters. Fantasy, after thousands of years of seclusion, I became a saint. Author, love to eat chicken legs. Chapter 482. Huh. The old man was shocked when he really saw this person who dared to break into Qianlong Mountain. He had just discovered the auras of dozens of Deluo masters, but why were there 2 more people? Moreover, in the old man's opinion, these 2 people, one of them, who was no more than 20 years old, seemed to have the same level of cultivation as Deluo, but he gave him an awe-inspiring look. He could not see through the cultivation level of the other withered old man at all. Looking at the postures of everyone, it was vaguely centered on the young man in black who was only 20 years old. If I can't see through it, I'm afraid it must at least be a saint of Hunyuan. It seems that these people must be from some big force. The old man had a lot of thoughts in his mind, but he regarded Qin Hao as a playboy, and everyone was his servant. However, in the entire Hunyuan ancient world, unless he is a peak royal family or a powerful person, he can use the Hunyuan saint as a guard. The royal family must have such strength. Thinking in his heart, the old man felt a little at peace, but he was much more polite, and he cupped his hands and said, "Dear friends, the wind is clear in Qianlong Mountain. You come to Qianlong Mountain. I wonder what important matters you have." Thinking about Qianlong Mountain's formation, the old man felt confident that even the Hunyuan saint could handle it. However, The key point is that these people are probably family members of a certain Peak King's royal family. No matter how powerful Qianlong Mountain is, they can't handle it. They didn't care about the powerful forces behind them. Therefore, even when they spoke, Feng Qingyang was much more polite. This elder Feng Qingyang has good strength. De Luo Dzogchen is actually not inferior to elder Maluo. With Qin Hao and Ku Gu Deiz's eyes naturally saw the strength of elder Feng Qingyang, and he was slightly shocked. He also gained a deeper understanding of Qianlong Mountain. It turned out to be elder Feng Qingyang, who was looking for someone when he came down to Qianlong Mountain. Now it's hard to reveal his identity. Qin Hao slightly cupped his hand and continued. I wonder if elder Qianlong Shan Feng Haikao is here? Are the 4 other sect disciples Xiao Chen, Wenzhong, Yuntian, and Su Ming still there? Qin Hao can't wait. He has stayed in the illusion of death for 6 years. He naturally misses Master Feng Haikao and his brothers in the outside world. Since he appears in Qianlong Mountain, he naturally wants to explore it. At least you know their current situation. Kindness. When Qin Hao asked about Feng Haikao, elder Feng Qinjiang's face suddenly dawned. He thought he was a friend of junior brother Feng Haikao, so he felt relieved and felt much more relaxed. But when he heard Qin Hao mention that Xiao Chen, Wenzhong, Yuntian, and Su Ming, elder Feng Qinjiang's face darkened and he said warily. But the batch that enrolled 7 years ago. There was an indescribable coldness in elder Feng Qinjiang's voice, and even Qin Hao felt something was wrong. Yes, it's them. Qin Hao suddenly felt something was wrong. But he was worried about his brother, so he had to bite the bullet and ask. Snort. Could it be that fellow Taoist deceive me that there is no one in Qianlong Mountain, and yet you dare to make fun of me? Before elder Feng Qingyang could speak, a middle-level De Luo monk beside him suddenly became furious and blurted out. This guy was so abrupt. Elder Feng Qingyang was shocked and wanted to stop him, but it was too late. After all, except for himself, these people the guardians have practiced hard one by one, but their cultivation is not as good as others. Although Qinlongshan's formation is strong, if you really want to make enemies with these people, at least their backstage will not be able to defeat them. There is another question. Just kidding, wait, what on earth is going on? Qin Hao frowned, but he held it back after all. He felt a little uneasy in his heart and asked. Elder Feng Qingyang sneered in his heart, just pretend. But after all, it is hard to offend others with his face, so he could only hand over his hand and said in a deep voice. 7 years ago, these 4 people had betrayed our Qianlong Mountain. This matter was a scandal for our Qianlong Mountain, but everyone in the ancient world knew about it. Could it be that fellow Taoist is really trying to humiliate me, Qianlong Mountain? At the end of the sentence, elder Feng Qingyang also had an angry look on his face. Looking at his posture, he was almost ready to explode. Only Qin Hao's face suddenly changed. Rebellion from Qianlong Mountain. His 4 brothers are all honest and responsible people. What happened to make them betray Qianlong Mountain? What's more, Master Feng Haikao obviously took care of them, and this happened. What happened to Master Feng Haikao, and what happened to them? At the moment, Qin Hao was in a bad mood, and his face was gloomy. Elder Feng Qingyang, please explain clearly why they betrayed Qianlong Mountain. And Elder Feng Haikao, didn't he take care of the 4 of them? What happened to Elder Feng Haikao? Withered Bones and others followed Qin Hao. As soon as he waited for these people to arrive, Qin Hao asked about Taoist Feng Haikao and the 4 of them. It was obvious that they had a subtle relationship with Qin Hao. Now that Qin Hao's mood changed, everyone felt that it was not the case. We are going to have a fight with Qianlong Mountain. Therefore, everyone is ready to fight. Pretend, just pretend, now you're showing off your flaws. When Qin Hao mentioned Taoist Feng Haikao again, and even knew that elder Feng Haikao had a good relationship with the 4 of them. Feng Qingyang became more and more sure that these people knew the whole story and intended to expose the scars of Qianlong Mountain. At that moment, he smiled coldly. Said everyone knows what happened in Nightwish Forest. Junior. Brother Feng Haikao went there. Taoist friends have repeatedly damaged my Qianlong Mountain facade. If I don't explain the reason clearly, I will be fighting hard today. I have offended your family, and I, Feng Qingyang, have to do it. Feng Qingyang was furious, and the Deluo monk behind him was even more furious. His true energy was moving and he attacked from the air. Well. Qin Hao frowned. He was already furious when he heard that the four people had betrayed Qianlong Mountain. This time he directly released his power. With Qin Hao's strength, as soon as his power was unfolded, it was so fast that even Feng Qingyang only saw a flash of magic power disappear, and two Deluo monks were directly seriously injured. Earth. Feng Qingyang was horrified. He realized that he had underestimated this young man. It turned out that he was the most powerful master among them. Don't use your formation rashly, otherwise you will hurt someone, but don't blame me for being ruthless. Qin Hao's next words immediately made Feng Qingyang feel awe-inspiring in his heart, and he felt as if he had fallen into a deep valley and hell. With Qin Hao's formation cultivation, although he had not practiced for a long time, the exquisite formations he came into contact with were really amazing. There are too many to mention. Although the formation in Qianlong Mountain is strong, Qin Hao discovered it as soon as he stepped into Qianlong Mountain. He is confident that with his own formation cultivation, it is not difficult to break through this formation. No wonder he has always been "Don't panic," it turned out that you had already been confident. And Feng Qingyang should have been very confident in the formation. But before he could move, Qin Hao explained the formation. At least in the past, Feng Qingyang had never heard of it. He said that someone could detect the existence of the formation when the formation was immobile in Qianlong Mountain. But at this moment, he had no confidence. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, after thousands of years of seclusion, I became a saint. Author, love to eat chicken legs. Chapter 483. Holding back the anger in his heart, Qin Hao cupped his hands again and said, I really don't mean any harm, it's just a matter of a friend, but I have to ask for advice. Slap him and give him a sweet date. Ordinarily, Qin Hao doesn't like this kind of manipulative technique, but today for the sake of his brothers and others, Qin Hao still had the patience to show it to Feng Qingyang. I'm just here to look for someone, and I don't have any intentions towards Qianlong Mountain. In fact, Qianlong Mountain is also the sect where Qin Hao stayed. Strictly speaking, his identity as a disciple of Qianlong Mountain has never been lifted. Even he himself had no intention of offending Qianlong Mountain, so when he came up, he was also a guest. You're polite. It was only when he heard that his brothers had betrayed Qianlong Mountain, and looking at the posture of these people that they wanted to kill them quickly, that Qin Hao felt angry in his heart. Being controlled by others, Feng Qingyang also had no confidence in his heart. At the moment, he could only lick his body and say junior brother Feng Haikao is indeed not in Qianlong Mountain. After saying that, he looked at Qin Hao doubtfully and thought to himself. The incident in Nightwish Forest is supposed to have shocked the entire Hunyuan ancient world. He is of high status and should know about it, but looking at his appearance, it is obvious that he knows nothing and is weird. But with people under the eaves, Elder Feng Qingyang had to continue. A month ago, someone spread the news that an immortal mansion was born in Nightwish Forest. Legend has it that there was a chaos spiritual treasure in it, and the entire ancient world was shocked. Needless to say, the temptation of the chaos spiritual treasure was so great that all the major forces sent their own people to the Nightwish Forest. I, Qin Longshan, am also a force. Junior brother Feng Haikao and others went to Nightwish Forest a month ago. Chaos spiritual treasure. Qin Hao was shocked. In the history of the ancient world of cultivation, only that ancient god had obtained the chaos spiritual treasure. And with the chaos spiritual treasure, the demonic path that was rampant in the cultivation world 3,000 years ago was destroyed. This incident, as a successor of the ancient demonic path, Qin Hao naturally knew the inside story. Now the chaos spiritual treasure has reappeared in the Nightwish Forest, which is known as one of the three most dangerous places. It seems that the ancient world of Hunyuan is going to be in chaos again. Qin Hao's heart is filled with confusion. He sighed, but didn't pay too much attention to it. On the one hand, he had the King of Flame as his teacher, and he had the Sky Shuttle in his hand, etc. That one was not a treasure that surpassed the chaos spiritual treasure by many, and he had already become numb to the magic weapon. On the other hand, he was worried in his heart. On the contrary, he doesn't care much about his brother's affairs, these magic weapons, etc. However, just because Qin Hao doesn't care, it doesn't mean that others don't care. But the withered bone Taoist patriarch Milo and the others who are following him, I was shocked. If I could really get the chaos spiritual treasure, I might not be able to directly dominate the ancient world and claim to be invincible. However, thinking of Qin Hao's methods, I no longer had those thoughts. At least following Qin Hao, I was afraid that there would be no good ones, a magic weapon. Thinking about Qin Hao's methods again, everyone was a little angry. So what about the chaos spiritual treasure? It's just a piece of magic. Wouldn't it be better to have a mobile magic treasure house next to you that can be infinitely upgraded? It turns out that before the death illusion Luofu Mountain came out, Qin Hao did not hide his secrets, considering that it was all his own power. He took most of the refining materials and so on from the entire Teishu immortal sect. With his weapon refining techniques, naturally extremely powerful. The Teishu immortal sect gathered countless refining materials from the entire Luofu Mountain. Qin Hao took the refining materials and relied on his own refining techniques to refine hundreds of Hushin Lingbao flying swords. He also made a flying sword, a treasure of merit and virtue, but it was used by Taoist dry bones. His display of fists and kicks shocked everyone in the Teishu immortal sect of Luofu Mountain. They were even more impressed by Qin Hao, and they were even more heartbroken from then on. This time, in the eyes of everyone, Qin Hao is a mobile magic treasure house. If you want a magic weapon, just ask him for it. And with Qin Hao's fast cultivation speed, he can now refine the acquired spiritual treasure, which is in today's world of cultivation unique. When he reaches a high level of cultivation, the grade of the natural magic treasure will go up to a higher level, whether it is a low-grade spiritual treasure, a medium-grade spiritual treasure, a high-grade spiritual treasure, or even a top-grade spiritual treasure. It is not what he wants. Everyone is thinking. Qin Hao frowned and said to the elder Feng Qingyang, "What happened to Xiao Chen, Wenzhong, Yuntian, and Su Ming?" "Elder." Feng Qingyang hesitated for a while and said helplessly, "When the four of them did something that insulted our Qianlong Mountain sect, junior brother Feng Haikao indulged his disciples and even helped them escape, and was even punished for half a year." After hearing what Elder Feng Qingyang said so easily and escaping, it doesn't mean that Qin Longshan is still chasing a few people. It's no wonder that Elder Feng Qingyang and others were furious when he and others mentioned them. However, Qin Hao, I believe that my brother can do anything that is disgraceful to our family. There must be something behind this. Elder Feng Qingyang, please explain clearly how disgraceful this thing is. Qin Hao said the word please, without anger and self-power, with an awe-inspiring aura, like murderous intent. Even though Elder Feng Qingyang has lived for nearly 100 years, he has never felt such a powerful murderous intent. How much killing must be done, only then could he have such a murderous intention. Elder Feng Qingyang's heart suddenly became more afraid of Qin Hao. At that moment, he had to bite the bullet and tell what happened back then. 7 years ago, he said that Qin Hao, Xiao Chen, and Wen Wenzhong, Yuntian, and Su Ming arrived, they stepped into the illusion of death alone. As for Xiao Chen, Wen, Zhong, Yuntian, and Su Ming, it was because Qin Hao asked Elder Feng Haikao to leave. So Qin Hao left. Elder Feng Haikao sent these 4 people away. He accepted them as his disciples and cared for them very much. The 4 of them also had high potential and qualifications. Although they were not as perverted as Qin Hao, nor did they have the opportunity for enlightenment. But in just 1 month, they all entered the Golden Immortal. After half a year the journey is even smoother. Among them, Xiao Chen has broken through to Tai, and Wenzhong, Yuntian, and Su Ming have also reached the great perfection of the late Golden Immortal stage. They are only 1 step away from entering Tai. Such outstanding qualifications are among this generation of disciples. They are also amazingly talented. Elder Feng Haikao is naturally proud of his lintel. There are 8 elders in Qianlong Mountain. Elder Feng Qingyang is the first elder. After that, Feng Haikao the elder is the 6th elder, and among them are the 6 elders Tian Xuanyu and Hongzhou Chen. Every year, there will be a competition between the disciples of the elders, and each generation of disciples will compete in cultivation. Elder Feng Haikao has 4 major disciples. All of them are amazingly talented, and among the generation 7 years ago, they were naturally outstanding. In the end, all the 4 major disciples of Elder Feng Haikao were shortlisted and became the top 8 selected in that session, which can be said to have shocked the entire Qianlong Mountain. Among the remaining top 4, one is Jian Qin and Qi Yu, disciples of Elder Feng Xian. Jian Qin is even more powerful and is known as the number 1 master of his generation in Qianlong Mountain. There are also 2 disciples of Elder Feng Hong and Elder Feng Chen. Name: Fantasy. After thousands of years of seclusion, I became a saint. Author: Love to eat chicken legs. Chapter 484. However, just before the quarter-finals, a disciple in Qianlong Mountain spread the news that the 4 major disciples of Elder Feng Haikao had joined forces to kill their fellow disciples. Everyone was shocked. After verification, the news came from a disciple of Elder Feng Xian. The disciple who was killed was Han Feng, who entered the same class 7 years ago. At that time, this disciple of Elder Feng Xian was good friends with Han Feng, and even gave him a pill to help him achieve the status of Golden Immortal. But not long after, Han Feng disappeared. After a long time, the disciple discovered the truth that Han Feng was killed by 4 people. Killing fellow sect members is definitely a taboo in the world of monks. These 4 people dared to kill their fellow disciples. How could Qin Longshan not be angry? At that moment, the 7 elders took action at the same time to capture the 4 Xiao Chens and save their lives. It's a shame, though. The 4 people got the information at a moment's notice, and with the support of Elder Feng Haikao, the 4 people finally escaped from Qianlong Mountain in advance. As for where the 4 people went, no one knew. But when Qianlong Mountain issued a wanted order, there was no place for them in the entire Hunyuan ancient realm. Hearing this, Qin Hao's face became uncertain, but in fact, he had already suppressed a ball of anger in his heart. Han Feng's death was obviously caused by him himself. With his status as a noble, he would not be held accountable for killing a mortal. But he didn't expect that as soon as he left, the disciple would bite back and say that Han Feng was killed by Xiao Chen and the other 4. The 4 of them, Xiao Chen, are mortals. If they kill someone, they will not only have to pay with their lives, but they will also be charged with killing each other. This is simply a deliberate frame-up. Qin Hao figured out the cause and effect of the matter in his mind, and his anger was on the verge of breaking out. Suddenly, all the murderous intent in his body was focused on Elder Feng Qingyang. You said that the 4 of Xiao Chen killed someone. How did you prove it? He remembered very clearly that he killed Han Feng with evil spirit. He was very curious as to why Qin Longshan could conclude that the man was killed by Xiao Chen and the other 4. Elder Feng Qingyang was horrified and was pressured by him. The pain of oppression. This is the decision of the hospital master and others. Even our 7 elders are still a little confused now. Feng Qingyang's words are not to excuse himself. This Jianlong mountain is also mysterious. Above the 8 elders, there is also the director. As well as the seniors of Jianlong mountain, they are all known as old monsters, and they are the ones who make the most decisions. Power. Now that they have identified these 4 people as the murderers, the 7 elders will naturally follow suit. The hospital master and others. Qin Hao sneered in his heart. He has clear grudges after all, and Taoist Feng Qingyang's explanation is reasonable. Now he is most concerned about the safety and whereabouts of his brothers. At the moment, Qin Hao said without any emotion. Where did Xiao Chen and the 4 of them go? I don't know these anymore. However, there has been no news about them, so they should be fine for the time being. After hearing this, Qin Hao relaxed his brows. As long as there is no news, there is still a possibility of living. Moreover, they said that Master Feng Haikao helped the 4 escape. In this case, there may be news from Master Feng Haikao. At the moment, Qin Hao couldn't wait to go to Nightwish Forest. However, he still had to go back to ensure the safety of his family. But since Qin Longshan treats his brother like this, even though he is a master's sect, he naturally can't be too cruel. But it can't be too gentle. Qin Hao stretched out his hand and pointed at a mountain in Qianlong Mountain, and violent mana spit out. His seemingly casual movement contained the 4th level of the 5 elements fantasy world, plus his 8th level of mana is no less than that of the rumored Avenue Master. Boom! The entire huge mountain turned directly into powder. Qianlong Mountain, if something happens to my brother, this mountain will be the fate of your Qianlong Mountain. Qin Hao snorted coldly and said nothing. He turned and flew away from Qianlong Mountain. Everyone followed him closely and turned away. Only Taoist Feng Qingyang was left, looking at the mountains disappeared, and his heart was filled with turmoil. But he knew that even the old monster in the mountain gate could not easily flatten a mountain with such a long distance between his hands. And among the Qianlong Mountain disciples who were watching, a figure wiped out the mountain. After looking at everything, he left in a flash. After leaving Qianlong Mountain, Qin Hao felt very bad and in a mess. He originally thought that when he came out of the illusion of death, it would be like a reunion between master and disciple, and a reunion between brothers. The scene. However, now the master is not here, and the brothers' life and death are uncertain and framed. With Qin Hao's character of clear grievances, if it weren't for the face of Elder Feng Haikao, he might have just flattened the whole place if he couldn't help it. Qianlong Mountain. Therefore, as soon as he came out, he couldn't hold back the anger in his heart and ran straight to Han City. The uncertainty of his brother's life and death made Qin Hao panic. He didn't know that in 7 years, brothers can do this, but what about his relatives and parents? In today's situation, naturally, the sooner he arrives, the more hope he has. Qin Hao is both looking forward to and worried in his heart. The speed is getting faster and faster, even if everyone follows him. It felt strenuous. However, Qin Hao's anxiety was also reasonable, and everyone understood it, and they all followed suit silently without any complaints. Han City is in the north of Kanglong Kingdom. Now it is the spring season again. Han City inside, there is a lively and prosperous scene. This Han City is guarded by the royal family, and the Qin family of the royal family is famous in the Hunyuan ancient world. Together with Handan City, it is also a prosperous metropolis in the Hunyuan ancient world. Especially when it is close to night, the Wish Mountains are the most prosperous city in the Nightwish Forest within the Nightwish Mountains. A month ago, there was news that a fairy was born in the Nightwish Forest, and among them was a legendary chaos spiritual treasure that had not appeared in the world for thousands of years. The attraction of the chaos spiritual treasure is so great that no monk in the entire Hunyuan ancient world is unmoved. Therefore, in an instant, countless monks in the entire Hunyuan ancient world gathered in the Yiwan mountains, and this Han city was even more, it was a gathering of masters. Now the atmosphere in the entire Handan city was one of excitement and shadows. Qin Hao was not in the mood to care about this. As soon as he stepped into Handan city, the people around him had not been around for decades, and everyone was in a flustered mood. Only Qin Hao didn't even have time to miss the old Han city, and flew directly to the Qin mansion in a high-profile void. Today's Handan city can be said to be a gathering of masters, although many extremely powerful masters have stepped into the Nightwish Water Mountain range to explore the reality. But there are also many who stay in Han city and wait for the opportunity. Therefore, Qin Hao's high-profile entry into the city was watched by many experts. Qin Hao's team of more than 10 people were all Deluo experts. There are even 2 old monsters, Qin Hao and Dry Bones Deazu, who are even top masters. It is impossible not to cause shock. Fantasy, after thousands of years of seclusion, I became a saint. Author, love to eat chicken legs. Chapter 485. Kindness. In the Qin mansion, Qin Yu was sitting on the throne of the clan leader that he had just fought back with all his efforts, his brows furrowed. A month ago, news came out from the Nightwish Mountains that the Qin family was in Han city, and the Yu family could be said to be closest to the Nightwish forest. Therefore, early in the morning, Qin Yu sent his experts to Nightwish Forest. For a whole month, no news came out of Nightwish Forest. Everything seemed to be the calm before the storm, which was very depressing. Qin Yu has a high level of cultivation, and as the clan leader these years, he naturally has a lot of miraculous medicines. His cultivation level has also entered the late stage of Deluo, and he is not inferior to some of the older generation elders in the clan. Even Qin Yu was envious of Qin Tian's talent that shocked the entire clan in the past. He had hated, complained, and been angry, but no matter what, he never gave up. He tried his best, but finally stepped on Qin Tian. Now that he has these miraculous medicines, he is still making rapid progress, and he is still a genius who shocks his clan. A person like him who can enter the late stage of Deluo at this age is very likely to break through the limitations of the Hunyuan ancient world, or at least stand at the pinnacle of the Hunyuan ancient world. Therefore, he, Qin Yu, can now proudly say that no matter how talented you are, in the face of all means, it is nothing but a joke. Suddenly, Qin Yu's mind moved, and he instantly caught dozens of huge auras, each of which was not inferior to him, and actually came directly to the Qin mansion. The Qin family claims to be the top clan in the ancient world of Hunyuan. Even so, dozens of late Deluo masters were dispatched at the same time. Even Qin Yu, who was confident in the intimidating power of the elders in the clan, could not help but frown. At that moment, he flashed and disappeared into the hall. Call out! Call out! Call out! Under the towering threshold of the Qin mansion, dozens of monks slowly fell down. The crowd that was originally gathered in front of the Qin mansion suddenly screamed in surprise. Monk, it's not like they haven't seen it before. Legend has it that a master of pill formation can fly in the air. In Han city, especially these days, it is normal to see some Deluo stage masters. However, seeing such a large number of ordinary people arriving at the gate of the Qin mansion with eager eyes, these ordinary people were all shocked. Some people who were watching the excitement even forgot about their lives and hid aside to watch the excitement. There were also some shrewd common people who knew that the affairs of these immortals were naturally not something they could provoke, so they immediately ran away one by one and stayed far away. Looking at the majestic Qin family's door plaque, Qin Hao just stood there without stepping in. It's not that he doesn't want to step in, or that he doesn't dare, but he has clearly sensed that the patriarch of the Qin family, his uncle Qin Yu, has arrived. Fellow Taoist He Fang, come to my Qin mansion, please forgive Qin Yu for being unwelcome. Qin Yu is very good at life, so he can calculate others. Even on his throne, he had already detected the arrival of Qin Hao and others, but when he really saw these masters, Qin Yu was shocked to find that there were two. He actually ignored this person. No, it wasn't that he ignored them, but he didn't detect their aura at all. One was a skinny old man, and the other was a young man in black who was no more than 20 years old. Moreover, both of them gave him a sense of closeness. He is thoughtful, such a master, especially the aura given to him by the skinny old man, which is definitely comparable to that of the great elder. This should be the Hunyuan saint. Qin Yu made an instant judgment in his heart, but the young man felt very ordinary to him, like an ordinary person. However, Qin Yu has been in the world of monks for so long, so he naturally knows that the ordinary is the best. Extraordinary. This young man in black is definitely a master. At least, he will be better than him. Coupled with such an impressive power, dozens of Deluo late monks are the power that his Qin family puts on the front, are not that powerful. Therefore, these people may have extraordinary origins. In an instant, Qin Yu changed his attitude and bowed his hand. Kindness. Seeing Qin Yu, this majestic man on the surface, but actually hiding scheming and evil intentions, his former uncle, Qin Hao couldn't help but frown with unspeakable disgust. However, when he thought of the withered bones Taoist ancestor once said, the Qin family 1,000-year foundation is definitely not that simple. At least, it is not impossible to have a higher generation than the withered bone Taoist ancestor. Therefore, the withered bone Taoist ancestor told Qin Hao not to do anything easily. Qin Hao stood in front of the Qin mansion politely. Instead of stepping in and carrying Qin Yu's head out. At least Qin Hao knew that his strength was not to the point where he could destroy the world with his backhand. Therefore, he still had to endure it. Are you the current patriarch of the Qin family of the immortal clan? The dry bones Taoist felt something was wrong in the atmosphere, and stood up instantly, unabashedly releasing the pressure of his Hunyuan saint. Daezu. Qin Yu was horrified, dripping with cold sweat. He almost didn't lie down on the ground, and his heart was shocked. Just now, he also felt Qin Hao's inadvertent aura that seemed to hate him, so he had some doubts in his heart. Although he was scheming. Others, but this person, seems to have never offended him. Haha, which friend visited my Qin mansion and received me poorly, please forgive me. The withered bones Taoist knew about the grievances between Qin Hao and Qin Yu. He also hated this guy and wanted to take the opportunity to teach him a lesson. He probably focused all his pressure on him so that he would suffer. Unexpectedly, there was a wanton laugh. Appeared suddenly. Along with this burst of laughter, an equally powerful coercion directly blocked the pressure of the withered bone Dao ancestor, but silently resolved the pressure of the withered bone Dao ancestor. Immediately, an old man in white appeared. Shape comes, facing the dry bones Taoist ancestor head on. Qin Nanfei, the elder of the immortal clan's Qin clan, dare to ask who your friend is. Qin Nanfei, who is also a master of the Hunyuan saint, also knows how powerful the withered bones Dao ancestor is, so he is very polite. Your name is Qin Nanfei. Which generation are you from? Withered bone Taoist ancestor frowned and said coldly. Qin Nanfei thought he was deliberately provoking and making things difficult for him, so he snorted coldly. I am the 48th generation elder of the Qin family of the immortal clan. 48th generation elder, you dare to be so presumptuous, I will punish you for the crime of disrespect today. The withered bone Taoist snorted coldly. It was clearly a provocation. Even in front of the Qin family of the entire immortal clan, they were on the verge of breaking out. However, as the withered bone Taoist waved his sword energy, the sword energy suddenly disappeared and then appeared suddenly in front of Qin Nanfei. Although Qin Nanfei was strong and cultivated as a Hunyuan saint, the withered bone Dao ancestor was even more powerful. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, after thousands of years of seclusion, I became a saint. Author, love to eat chicken legs. Chapter 486. I think back then, the withered bone Dao ancestor should have broken through to Hunyuan and became the Dao ancestor, but he delayed it for decades and kept accumulating strength. As the saying goes, with thick accumulation and thin hair, coupled with the hard training in the illusion of death, who is not the elite of the elite? Once the withered bone Dao ancestor steps into the Dao ancestor, his strength is comparable to that of the middle stage. Qin Hao was able to defeat withered bones before, just because the withered bones Dao ancestor's cultivation level had just entered the Dao ancestor, and the second step was still unstable. Now that he has completely stabilized his state of cultivation and mana, his strength is comparable to that of the middle stage of the second step. Qin Hao is conceited at this moment and cannot be his opponent unless he goes all out. And even though Qin Nanfei is the most powerful person of the 48th generation, even many elders of the 47th generation should not be more powerful than him. But he was no match for dry bones. He accidentally blocked his attack and blocked it hastily, but suffered some minor injuries. He was furious and was about to explode when he suddenly thought of the sword energy just now. He was shocked and stuttered a little. You are a member of my Qin family of the immortal clan. The Pluto sword Qi is indeed the Pluto sword Qi that is not passed down by direct descendants of the Qin family of the non-immortal clan. Qin Nanfei is an elder of the 48th generation, an elite among them, and a direct descendant of the Qin family. He naturally recognized the Pluto sword energy. This skinny old man must be a member of the Qin family if he can display the Pluto sword energy. This deity is the 47th generation direct descendant of the Qin family of the immortal clan, Qin Tianxiang. It turned out that the real name of this withered bone Taoist ancestor was Qin Tianxiang. He reached out and took out a jade slip, which was the same as Qin Hao's. Qin Nanfei looked at it and was convinced again, and bowed down with a thud. Qin Nanfei pays homage to his uncle. As the dry bones Taoist ancestor said, Qin Tianxiang is the 47th generation, and Qin Nanfei is his junior. If he dares to call him a friend or fellow Taoist, he should be punished for the crime of disrespect. Wait. Qin Nanfei was prostrating, but Qin Yu suddenly stood up and sneered again and again. Our immortal clan, the Qin family, is a big clan, but the people in the direct line have long been counted. If this senior is a member of my Qin family, even though there is the sword energy of Pluto as proof, and this jade pendant. But the Pluto sword energy can be learned secretly, and the jade pendant can also be stolen. In this case, I have to invite the ancestors of my Qin family to come and verify it personally, and have a genealogy appraisal. Otherwise, there would still be doubts about the identity of the senior. As soon as Qin Yu said this, Qin Nanfei suddenly woke up. But Qin Tianxiang's identity is very likely, so Qin Nanfei did not dare to neglect and said respectfully, "Please follow me into the Qin mansion, senior, and ask the ancestors to take action. Naturally, everything will be known to be true or false." Well. Qin Hao and the withered bone Taoist looked at each other, but decided to go in. After all, the identity of the withered bone Taoist must be true, and the two of them have nothing to fear. What's more, their plan needs the support of the withered bone Taoist. At that moment, everyone was about to follow them in. But Qin Yu suddenly said, "Wait a minute, since the senior said they are the ancestors of my Qin family, who are these people?" Snort. The withered bone Taoist snorted coldly, pressing down on Qin Yu with coercion, and said coldly, "This is my grandson. These are my servants. Do I still need to ask questions from you, the patriarch of the clan. With the pressure of the withered bone Taoist, Qin Yu felt miserable and miserable. Considering the identity of the withered bone Taoist Qin Tianxian, Qin Nanfei knew that he was probably a senior and did not dare to offend him, so he had to look at Qin Yu. He was in trouble, but he didn't dare to help. Under the strong oppression of the withered bone Taoist ancestor, and thinking about the fact that the Qin family's ancestors were in charge, no one could make a difference, so Qin Yu endured a period of pressure and oppression in vain, so he could only let go, and everyone stepped in together. In the Qin mansion. Just after everyone stepped into the Qin mansion, several figures of the crowd originally gathered in front of the door disappeared one after another. After that, all the major forces in Han City got the news that an old man suddenly appeared in the Qin mansion. The senior, with advanced cultivation, is at least a Hunyuan saint. Suddenly, all the major forces were speculating and fearing the Qin family. In the Qin mansion, Qin Hao and others followed the withered bone Taoist ancestor Qin Yu and others into the Qin mansion. In the main hall, because the matter was too big, Qin Nanfei had to invite his ancestors who might not be dispatched once in decades. But Qin Yu left everyone behind and went to search for genealogy and evidence. Everyone was in the main hall. Waiting inside, Qin Hao couldn't wait any longer. Relying on the fact that his cultivation was half as powerful as Kongming's early stage, he disappeared into the small shabby courtyard in the backyard of the Qin mansion in the main hall. Li Muwen sat on the shabby. He was knitting clothes on the wooden chair, while Qin Tian was sitting at the wooden table, brewing a pot of herbal tea, frowning, obviously not in the mood to drink tea. Since Qin Hao came back 7 years ago, he used cold-blooded methods. After killing them as a warning, none of the servants and old ladies of the Qin family dared to bully the family again. Even the servants rushed to do the heavy work, but the two of them were much more relaxed. This is really, as I said, evil people will be punished by evil people. What are you thinking about? I see you looking sad all day. Seeing her husband's frown, Li Muwen smiled softly. Well. Qin Tian stood up and walked around, and then suddenly said. Brother Zhang was sent by Qin Yu to the Nightwish Forest to investigate. Oh. But there's been no news from him this month. I'm worried that Qin Yu might have discovered something, and he might do something bad to Brother Zhang. The more Qin Tian thought about it, the more anxious he became. Unfortunately, his cultivation was sealed, and he was unable to use it. If the Lianxing fruit was there, how could there be so much trouble? When he thought of the Lianxing fruit, Qin Tian didn't. I frowned, but I thought of Qin Hao. It has been 7 years, exactly 7 years, and I heard about Qin Hao 6 years ago. Unfortunately, the only opportunity was exhausted that time, and the contact was broken. Qin Hao was no more news. Probably not. After all, I heard that none of the major forces, including the forwards of the Yu clan, seem to have returned yet. Brother Zhang, he has his own destiny, so don't worry too much. Li Muwen enlightened Qin Tian, and then said sadly. Brother Zhang has not been seen for only a month, but Qin Hao has not been heard from for 6 years, and he has not been seen for 7 years. I don't know how much this child suffered in the illusion of death. Li Muwen has a motherly heart after all. Although she also supported Qin Hao when he went to the illusion of death. But if we say who is the most reluctant and who suffers the most, it is naturally Li Muwen. Moreover, Qin Hao was only a few years old at the time. If he had grown up, maybe there is still some comfort. For a mere child to suffer, even ordinary people would feel pity in their hearts. Let alone a loving mother like Li Muwen. There shouldn't be any problem. Don't forget that Brother Mo Sang also said back then that Qin Hao spent about a month in the Sea of Death to enter the Golden Immortal stage. His strength was so strong that he could defeat the entire death. There are not many opponents in the sea area, and with the help of friends from Kangyu Island and Kinji Island, he should have reached the 3rd or even 4th level compared to now. Fantasy, after thousands of years of seclusion, I became a saint. Author, love to eat chicken legs. Chapter 487. Haha, this kid is indeed my Qin Tian's son. He is so talented that even I can only admire him. It's ridiculous that Qin Yu, after all, one day, even if we die, Qin Hao can still live on his own. Even revenge for us is not impossible. Qin Tian heard from Mo Sang that Qin Hao's deeds in the Sea of Death and the many lives and deaths he experienced, even Qin Tian only felt that living for most of his life was not as many lives and deaths as Qin Hao. However, these hardships were all forgotten. Qin Hao stepped over one by one, and he developed a skill to survive. Therefore, Qin Tian was sincerely happy for him. As for Qin Hao coming out of the illusion of death, Qin Tian had no hope. When he asked Qin Hao to go, it was just because his plan had a high chance of failure. In the entire Hunyuan ancient world, there were only 3 dangerous places where Qin Hao could hide from being persecuted by Qin Yu. The best among them is naturally the illusion of death. Not only is it a dangerous place, but it also offers great opportunities. I don't want him to take revenge. If we die, let him let the grudge go. At least with you in this life, Wanner will have no regrets in this life. As for Qin Hao, I just hope he can be safe. Li Muwen smiled softly and looked indifferent. The hardships in life did not knock this little woman down, but made her more determined and more aware of contentment and tolerance. Qin Hao can live forever in the illusion of death, between life and death. In this way a family also has a great influence on him. The gentle conversation between the two made it clear that life and death have already been seen through, and they are not worried at all about the future. It doesn't matter whether they live or die, it seems that as long as they want when two people are together, life and death are just that. Dad, Mom, I'm back, I'm back. The two were chatting, deeply in love, when suddenly, several loud shouts rang out in this clean little courtyard. The voice was clear and crisp, but it was the voice of a young man. But mother and son were connected, and Li Muwen's face was moved. There was a glimmer of water in his eyes, and he seemed to be stunned. Immediately, he said excitedly, Brother Tian, it's Qin Hao. I heard Qin Hao's voice, he's back, he's back. Li Muwen sat up from Qin Tian's arms excitedly, and Qin Tian also raised his head and looked into the courtyard. Sure enough, at the door of the small house in the originally empty courtyard, there was a young man in black clothes, who was only about 18 years old. His expression is somewhat similar to Qin Tian. But there is a kind of evil spirit in this man's eyebrows, which is a natural murderous spirit that can only be formed after killing to the extreme. However, at this moment, the man had tears in his eyes, looking at Li Muwen, and Qin Tian was stunned. Qin Hao originally had a plan. At least before he entered the Qin family, the withered bone Taoist ancestor told him that the Qin family's 1,000-year inheritance and many senior masters, at least their cultivation level, definitely not inferior to Qin Hao at this moment. And Qin Hao can definitely use legitimate means if he wants to defeat Qin Yu. The withered bone Taoist is also a member of the Qin family, and he is still Qin Hao's ancestor. So, the two of them thought about it, and it was decided to let the withered bone Taoist return to the clan, and then use his strength to defeat Jian Qin in an upright manner, and then take the opportunity to uncover the Jianzong's conspiracy. By then, Qin Hao's strength will definitely have increased a lot, and he will be more confident, and with the help of the withered bone Taoist, then Qin Yu was invincible. But at this moment, when he really returned to the Qin family, Qin Hao found that he could no longer restrain himself and wanted to see them and his parents. Therefore, he did not care about the consequences and relied on himself with advanced cultivation. He hurried to the backyard. Then, he saw this tender scene. Even Qin Hao's heart, tempered in the illusion of death, was as steely. After all, he is a man of love, and in the face of deep affection, also turned into a pool of tears. It was longing, but also deep family affection. In the broken house in the small courtyard in the backyard of Qin Mansion. Qin Hao finally met his parents. After a deep and affectionate conversation, Qin Hao told his parents my own journey into the fantasy of death, from the moment of life and death when I first entered the fantasy of death, to the pursuit on Kanglang Island, and then the pursuit of the terrifying beasts, the inheritance of the ancient magic way, the secret of the fantasy of death, between life and death, the sea of suffering. With his cultivation, he came back from the dead during the heavenly tribulation, counterattacked Kanglang Island, stepped into the Yan Wang's extremity domain, and then became a disciple of Yan Wang. What followed was the encounter in Luofu Mountain, the unification of Luofu Mountain, and even the identity of the withered bone Taoist ancestor. Qin Hao did not hide it. To tell such a thrilling experience, it is really dazzling and amazing. Especially when Qin Hao entered the Sea of Death, he was afraid of being recognized as practicing the ancient demonic path. But what he encountered in the illusion of death turned out to be he really embarked on the ancient demon path, and even the entire illusion of death turned out to be a damaged innate spiritual treasure, a place of trial for demon cultivators. Qin Hao's experience of life and death was not only due to luck and strength, but also his own willpower. Bai's help and so on were really dangerous. Even Li Muwen couldn't help crying when he listened. Only. Qin Tian's face became more solemn, and his eyes looking at Qin Hao also changed. If Qin Tian still thought that Qin Hao was just a naive child, but now he is a real man, a real man. Good. As expected of my Qin Tian, the waves behind you in the Yangtze River push the waves ahead and beat your father to death on the beach. Haha, this time, Qin, you will really die without a burial. Qin Tian laughed wantonly, but Li Muwen rolled her eyes at him and said angrily. He said something about death, death. Qin Hao just came back, why did he say something unlucky? Hey, by the way, Xiaobai, he has helped you a lot. If not, I might never see my son again. You can't bully him. As soon as Li Muwen mentioned Xiaobai, Xiaobai couldn't wait in the storage space. Before Qin Hao could say anything, he jumped out on his own. I'm here, I'm here. Da. Xiaobai jumped out of his skin with joy. He is already in the Deluo stage, and Xiaobai can naturally speak human words. Wanner's mother, fortunately you haven't forgotten me, but I still remember your craftsmanship, it's all delicious. As soon as Xiaobai said this, Qin Hao immediately felt ashamed. This guy, who was so actively waiting for the call, turned out to have a plan and was greedy for delicious food. The most important thing is that Qin Hao heard Xiaobai himself say that he knew a lot 100 or even 1,000 years old, he still dares to call Wanner mother, what a shameless person. Qin Hao cursed in his heart, but Li Muwen smiled tenderly, let Xiaobai crawl into the palm of his hand, and said with a cheerful smile. It just so happens that you haven't tasted my craftsmanship for 100 years, and you just came back today, just in time for you to try it and eat it to your heart's content. Suddenly Xiaobai was happy, thinking secretly. Wanner's mother is really easy to talk to, unlike Xiao Qinzi, who promised herself many times but still hasn't fulfilled it yet. We are all the same people, but why is there such a huge gap?